Hello everyone. Today's talk will be breaking through all conspiracies. What that means is that I don't want to talk too much about this because there's nothing to talk about. But the fact that if you choose to create an enemy behind the door, you will choose to also see one. And so what that means is that throughout our reality, many of us are able to handle confrontation, but don't require it. We don't need it. We don't need, for example, some disturbance. The pilot does not need turbulence. And so the plane of existence must be made aware of in the sense that you are driving it beyond a sense of you that as if you are incapable of handling your reality. You're always able to handle your reality. It's just that sometimes your personality is not one that is allowing you enough of your ability. So what that means is that if you had a different personality trait, it's not that, how would I say it? It would be as if, like, if I gave you a task you never could have even imagined, you might be really good at it. You have that potential. And so every human being has the potential of being more than their current ability because they're always in observance of their ability, regardless if their movement is on this level or on the subtler levels of mind. And so what the subtle levels of mind means is that we can't ignore that thing which we call thoughts. Because it is what we're utilizing to shape and then to, in a sense, reintroduce as meaning to ourselves. Because there's a constant set of repetition in language, in the sense that meaning needs to be communicated through the same symbols. And so this is simply how human consciousness has evolved. It has observed how it can communicate, and in that communication, it has found the pen to write more than what could ever be written. You see, you are at first observing your reality with all the stories that you've heard. And so the biggest conspiracy is not the one with any government or anything like that. The biggest conspiracy is who you think you are to yourself, who you think you have been, who you think you really know. Because there's people who really feel they know themselves, but then see themselves doing something that they could not believe. And we see many examples of the psychology, in the sense that what is exciting to us, for example, in our media, is to see a person who could never be in that condition be in that condition. It's like at times many viewers who are watching very harsh movies are watching it is because they're not there, but they can be there to watch it. You know, and it's very important how you develop man's psychology because you're still an animal too. And if your ideas don't blend in with how you are actually an animalistic being in a sense, in certain aspects of your existence, you will in a sense clutter your mind. You will reach a point where you will create the concept of not just guilt, but it would be the dynamic that you're being thrown around. It's as if you're not aware of your life and you're just being punished by all that is, you know. The importance is that the awareness that you seek is not an awareness to ideology as much as it is an awareness to how you're exactly experiencing things as existence. So when you have that ability to observe how the forms don't really imply any meaning, you are the one who is putting the meaning there. You realize it was your spotlight of attention that really set the stage. Now, we talk about consciousness. Man has reached a point where the human being is like, all right, I'm not just this physical thing, I'm the awareness of this physical thing. Now, what happens from there? Well, certain things can potentially happen, and this is where even you truly see the value of human choice. Because when you become aware of what the human being is, and then observe its freedom, you realize its freedom is never getting caught in one dimension of solidified experience. This is just a certain space-time continuum. How do I know this? Because I can observe it. And because that observance reaches a point of experience where how I'm aware of reality is beyond what can be communicated in the terms of a person. So when we get rid of person and perhaps use the word presence, we will be acknowledging the deeper aspects of man as well, not just saying that he's this shape that cannot be changed in an infinitely changing world. It's very important to see that your values of what you think you are is only for a certain time. Let's assume that I am that person who has accepted the general view on time and how there's a past, present, and future, and so I see that I am born. It's as if like, I'm just born out of nowhere, you know. And so as I'm born, I have this self-awareness and I have this ability to be unique. In other words, regardless of whatever spiritual value I try to find or whatever, you know, you are a piece of life. You are a human being born at a certain time and you're continuing. You don't have any senses of similar to how real you can see a story, you can also see nothing as real as that. And when you do, that you get a sense of clarity in how your vision is not what you thought it was. It's like you were never a limited being. It was lack of vision that communicated that. Because in your ability, like think about it. If you suddenly, instead of judging yourself throughout your life, treated yourself as if like, how do I say it? It's very like, just add imagery to it. For example, imagery of royalty. Add the imagery of the fact that you're not trying to be above anything, but when you're competing with yourself, you realize you want to have a sense of respect. What that means is that there is no king and peasant, but the observance of both and the acceptance of which aspect of its experience to, in a sense, activate. You choose what colors to use. The colors don't really mean anything unless you use them in a certain way. Life doesn't mean anything unless you are engaged with it in a certain way. And as you are engaged with it in a certain way, the meaning is not a linear meaning. It's like there's a difference between someone who, for example, does something out of a feeling of, for example, love is really the irrational rationality for man. It's as if that thing which it doesn't look right, but it seems to always be right, you know? You will even find that in the human form, the concept of love has been made a bit fluffy. And in that fluffiness, certain people have begun ignoring it. But what that means is that you're accepting reality in a certain way. After some time, you will see there are other realities. How joyous and compassionate are you in allowing them to express and for you to, in a sense, walk in this life? Because there's a difference between that person who's here to walk on the trail of life, just go walk in the park, have a very comfortable walk in the park, or that person who takes the first step in the park and it's like, oh no, I don't like these bushes, and starts playing with the dirt. You know, it's unnecessary how you're approaching things when you realize the priorities are more than how you're interpreting life. So what that means is your presence is more, it is beyond your contemplation. How dare you get even close to the thought of taking your life? It is as if you are not aware of it, and so you're saying, oh, I can't use it, oh, that's it, I'm done. No. This is where you must have the toughness of nature. Because you see, those people who do not let their children go in nature, or those kids who do not even go in nature, realize that there's an aspect of life they're not acknowledging. If you're still uncomfortable with change, that is your problem. Because regardless, you will be changing. Regardless of how much you think this problem is your only problem, or this problem is no problem, whatever you think, whether you feel good or bad, you're moving. And in this movement, you're experiencing different parts of the park, so your reality will not be the same. Your growth at time is not the fact that you're the shape that's changing, it's the fact that there's this change, this view, observing the process of change. To be honest, we think existence has given us a body. No. All bodies are present in the way that we are. We are simply aligning to it as a moment of experience. And so that awareness as moment of experience is the allowance. It's as if you're not realizing the power of the moment because it connects you to all moments of existence. The fact that you exist and you're self-aware of it creates the potential for you to be anything, to be any form. The fact that man, this species just got this extra mirror of self-awareness and suddenly realized that it was beyond itself. That's a very profound truth, because it's a truth that is not termed. It is not a truth that comes based on terms and conditions. It is not a revelation that you have to be a certain type of person to be. The moment is the moment for anything, for everyone, and for you. Because without that crucial understanding, you're still trusting an external form. And by trusting an external form, it does not mean that you're wrong or right. No. Most of the time when you actually choose the easy way out, you're right. But only the geniuses know that, gosh, I'm trying to be wrong. Why is everyone telling me I'm right? You know, that's probably Einstein's mind, where he wanted to go beyond what mankind was thinking. Because a great mind wants to be in the presence of great minds and sees that the challenges must go beyond. So you must see that you shouldn't be just worried about how much things you're going to do in regards to like you doing a physical thing. You must see that the intensity of how you are, in a sense, preserving your life energies, or your life energies can consciously be whirled to such a degree that every moment is a new wonderland. You will simply see that you are being driven into different aspects of your memory, where it's as if you're not just receiving all those memories. It's like you're not just aware of all the memories that were relevant to here. You're also aware of all the potentials of those memories and how in your attention you change your room. What that means is that I could be standing here and you could be talking to me. One way I'm listening to it's as if, let's say, I'm visualizing, oh gosh, let's say I'm very young and I'm in Iran somewhere in my grandmother's, backyard, and I'm just hanging out there. There's one way in which my experience right now, while you're talking to me, perhaps in the park, somewhere totally irrelevant, is suddenly seen through the relevance of that context, because my experience suddenly has gone there for some reason. Now that's a room. But there's also a room where I'm here and I'm not thinking about anything and I'm completely listening to what you're saying. And there's also ways where these rooms even merge, in the sense that I could be listening to you, but I also see on some subtler level of my conception, in the edges of my mind, I'm also receiving other stuff as well. And that other stuff is actually how much I am existentially allowing existence to communicate to me. Because when you trust life, it's not like life is giving you secrets. It's just talking and you're just listening. It's like there's no secret. There's no secret order. There's no hierarchy that needs to be there unless you choose to be in the realms of dictation, where then you can be. So take this concept of a room I was saying, very important, because the room is actually how you are in the moment, and it's an unknown random thing. The problem with why psychology will never be accurate is because there is unknown factors. It's because man is that intelligence between a simultaneous sense of reality and also a reality that is, in a sense, expanding and transitioning, moving from one point to another point. If you're in that reality, if you're in that room where you're considering that cause and effect has a delay, it's not instant for you, you will be caught in many games. It doesn't matter. You will, even after finishing that game, you will be looking for another game, because you're accepting something about yourself which is not really accurate, which is not really true. And later on in the future, you'll be like, oh gosh, that's not me. So it's, in other words, if I'm constantly in the room of, let's say, in my grandmother's house back in Iran, and when you're talking to me, it's as if I'm not here. So it's very important for me to be in the present moment beyond my ideology, because it doesn't matter where I was raised, what, in a sense, culture I was in. When I have access to imagery, I play with that imagery. The nature of the human mind is like that. I mean, what that really means is that you might see that, oh, this kid, for example, in India doesn't have a TV. But the intensity of the visualizations and the chaotic nature of imagery in his mind could be even more intense than you. Those people who get involved in life, get a sense of high definition beyond what high definition TVs or things could show you. It is actually, it's like the quality of experience is real, so it is beyond anything that may give you a sense of screen. Your life is not a screen, but a video game is, for example, or a TV channel. For those of you who think they have a control of the remote is never in anyone's hand. You're never channeling anything. You're never talking to anything. You are always a self-communication that gives you trust in certain realities that need to be present there. So at times you will see, you're not here to keep meaning in the in lives of other people. You're not here to tell people's future and being even that arrogant to limiting the sense of conception of time into past, present, future. What do you mean telling someone's future? That's ridiculous. The fact that we have seers simply means we have human beings who in their self-awareness realize that there's a dimension of existence that is simultaneous. So it's as if one aspect of our experience is cause and effect, but in the core of who we are and how this whole reality is within the eyes of a greater view, we simply see that from that greater view, we are a dimension of ability that can acknowledge many dimensions. So what that means is that the fact that we're even interested in the concept, or we have a word that is, for example, multidimensional, simply suggests that how much able we are into exploring more than one dimension by conceiving that we are more than in one. And this is also a very risky thing, because the civilization sciences are what is driving it. And if the sciences are not given room to grow, that science will suddenly be it will be so disconnected that you're like, gosh, the nature science, if I go, for example, just in nature and just be still, that science is connected with the whole intelligence of the cosmos, but gosh, my internet has only a certain amount of speed. And so I gotta wait for my browser to load. You can choose which path to go. You're always choosing in the sense that there is no game and you just have movement. You have an ability to move. In other words, before everyone told you, oh, you were this guy and this was your life, you were just an existential movement. And so having that awareness of existential movement is actually a sense of mind where you will see you must allow yourself to be in ways that you have never been. You must allow yourself to sit down on that bench in that world where you thought you were a runner in. And you thought you were even a good runner. You know, running is good, but do you want to run every single day of your life? In a sense, no. You want to have a quality of life that is efficient in the sense that your self-awareness is maxed out. Self-awareness simply means that if someone comes and asks you, you have observed all information that is relevant to you, and you have also observed the irrelevance of all of it. You must recognize that I am simply a man, and this is the communication of one man to all men. However, the purpose of all communication is its awareness. Why would something be communicated if you cannot receive it? So the fact that we as human beings are each one of us, regardless of our physical structure, are of a unique point of existential awareness, we each are like that moment in the world that could change the world. It's like each one of us is a potential of infinite opening into reality. And so it is the task of the part of consciousness to actually be a communicator in moments when no one is. You will simply see that you do not just need the compassion of, for example, let's say the Dalai Lama, but the dexterity of the greatest generals of man as well. You need to also be able in your action. And so that action is required because we are responsible for the communication of this aspect of the universe and this aspect of reality. You exist here. You are a communication of this existence. Your awareness to this existence is your clarity. And that is what clarity has always been. A moment of recognition beyond the flaw. And it's very important to see that the conspiracy is just like that sense of self which you have kept there. The conspiracy is imagery which you are focusing into to make it a reality. And so that is why it's even real for you. If the concept of a conspiracy is attractive to you, it's because the movement of imagery in that aspect of viewing life is fun for you, actually. It's not that you're a truth seeker. You're just getting engaged in a certain experience with your image. It's as if you thinking about your relationship so much, you're like, oh God, I'm in such a good relationship, but you're actually not there. So it's very important to simply see that you are the mind of man, and the mind of man has unknown factors, so don't judge yourself. There's no such thing as weird, crazy, all this stuff is simply just, it's unexplored territory. In other words, we should not be a society that calls someone crazy. We need to be aware of why the modality, why thought is approaching that human being. And so sometimes we might think we can't be, but we can always be considerate. And so we must take care and be compassionate. What that means, for example, is that back then, something that happened in human consciousness was that the way they would treat, for example, a criminal is they would punish them. They would hit their physicality. So it's as if certain beings that came down on this plane, in other words, as man woke up from the ape, it realized that through its communication, it could value mankind differently. So that is why we have had a difference in the value of men. That is why all men look the same but do not feel the same. Because the communication of how they are real and how they are being communicated or seen, or in a sense how they are seeing things even, is all simply making the story so complex that it only has a simple ending. And the fact that if you really think you're disturbed, well, guess what? It seems like you have run into the embrace of disturbance. But if you're someone who is aware that there is no need to be in turbulence when you're aware, when the pilot of consciousness is navigating his plane as if it was, moving an iPhone app into a new box. It's very simple. It's not something that needs to hinder you. I hope you instantly break all conspiracies and see what really serves you is not your assumed belief or disbelief in something, but simply your experience of it and a direct experience of it. Not even how someone tells you. Not even, for example, the things I tell you, it is not as valuable as you actually going and experiencing it. As you going between a rock, between a river, and just simply sitting there and simply making sound and observing where that sound originates from. For in the end of ends, there's always a beginning, and you shall see that your mind is not here to shape itself. Because you are not even here to be shaped. And so it's a very baffling and very overwhelming concept when you realize it's as if your presence in external reality was always for an internal cause. It's as if what we thought was external reality and light hitting things and coming into our eyes was actually us being the light from the spark, as if we are an emanation of reality. As if on some level one intermediary is the self-aware me, the next and I am the intermediary to my physicality, in the sense that my body becomes my world and my world becomes my body. You become aware that your whole moment is valuable as an observant intelligence, not just little aspects of your moment where you're calling, oh, this is me, this is my thought, this is who I think I am. Man is not a thinker. Man is just aware of a certain structure in how he receives imagery that he hasn't been able to move past it, but now in an instant we have. So it's very crucial to know that the unknown is where your love has always grown towards. You have learned to, for example, love people you couldn't. You have learned to be compassionate. And so that is the gift of self-awareness. To teach you, that being who thought he was only in certain limited ranges of dimension. No, you're multidimensional. Your communication every moment is creating an experience of how form is relevant and irrelevant. And so in that irrelevance and irrelevance, you are the passing wind between the branches, because you're not here to shape what your movement will be felt. You will see that your presence has plans beyond your personality, and that is truly a free being. Much blessings and namaste.